I think we're going live.
Yep, I got the message. Live streamed.
Yay! Okay. So, are we live on YouTube yet? Can you see us and hear us?
Just checking.
Let me check.
Yeah.
It says video will play after ad. That's a good sign.
Okay, good. We're going live. Yeah.
That sounds it. That's us.
Okay, so I have to mute on this thing. Yeah, so there we go. We're live on YouTube now, guys.
What's up?
Hey! All right, so I'm just gonna just gonna type in the comment section if y'all are here. Say hi. Hi. Oh, where did it go? Where did that go? Hi, Suchin, Gayle, welcome to my channel and welcome to another live broadcast, which I'm trying to figure out how to do, but I think I managed to do it this time around. I think we're going fine. Vikrant says all good.
Thank you, Vikrant. No, thank you so much for having us. This is really fun.
Yeah,
always.
thank you for having us. The last time we did Loki was super fun.
Right, and this time I've also managed to figure out how to do live stream via Zoom, so I'm very excited. For anybody who's joining us right now, there's going to be a ton of spoilers for Thor Love and Thunder, for The Boys Season 3 and for Stranger Things Season 4 Volume 2. So if you've not watched Thor Love and Thunder, Boys Season 3 and Stranger Things Season 4 Volume 2, then you might want to log off right now. और अगर आपने मेरा रिव्यू नहीं देखा अभी तक तो आप हमारे रिव्यूज देख सकते हो जाके सुचिन के रिव्यूज पढ़ सकते हो और गेल के रिव्यूज पढ़ सकते हो फर्स्ट थॉट्स आई नो गेल यू आर लाइक अ बॉयज सुपर फैन यू मैनेज टू गो टू ऑस्ट्रेलिया एंड लाइक मीट एवरीबडी मीट द कास्ट एंड एवरीथिंग व्हाट वाज दैट लाइक ओ माय गॉड
It was incredible. So Amazon had this 4-day junket last month and they took us to Australia. They took us to Sydney and we got to meet Jack Wade, who plays Huey, Jesse T. Usher, who plays A-Train, Claudia Dumet, who plays Victoria Newman, and there was Chase Crawford, who plays the D. And they were super fun. They were super nice. Jesse T. Usher is exactly like his character. We caught him running down the hallway and screaming, "They're never gonna catch me!" Yeah, he is just A-Train in real life. He's super charming in real life, and I think the show works overtime to sort of put a dampener on his charm, make him seem like a bit of an asshole. But yeah, he's super charming. All of them are super charming, super sweet in real life. It's great fun.
Hi Zen. Zen Memon is watching us. Zen Memon, for those who don't know, makes that game Shasan that you can see in the background over there, piche mere. Great. Suchin, initial thoughts on The Boys?
No, I'm a massive fan of the show, and I think it's one of the shows that it really feels like they go bigger and better each time. And I think season 3 was freaking excellent. Like I literally finished the last episode today, and I'm still buzzing.
Thor Love and Thunder के बारे में initial thoughts share करो जल्दी से, फिर हम detail में जाते हैं, बताओ.
I'm not buzzing.
You're not buzzing, no?
Not buzzing. No buzzing. No buzzes.
So sad, so sad. Gayle?
Yeah, it was a disappointment, and this is coming from someone who loved Ragnarok. Like I know there are people who didn't like the comedic tone it went into. Yeah, but I don't know. For me, none of the jokes landed. It just sort of fell flat. It was a disappointing experience.
Everyone who's joining us right now, hello. Mood kya hai says that I read the article by Gayle on Boys. I'm like the only one who's a little disappointed with the Boys finale. No, you're not the only one who's disappointed with the Boys finale. There's a lot of people who are disappointed with the Boys finale, and I see your point also. We'll come to that. So I have prepared a very handy slideshow, everybody. There's lots of spoilers, and let's get into the slideshow, and then we're gonna go one by one and talk about all the things. All right, ready?
Let's do it.
I'm really hoping that this will work. It's working.
It is.
I think it's safe to say
clearly?
you've put in more effort into this slideshow than they put into the Thor Love and Thunder script. That's all I'm saying.
You know, I think I'm going to start doing this every week. Everything this week is the new title of this new show. And I'm going to catch hold of the two of you and my other friends and just do this rundown of everything we watched this week. How fun, right?
Let's do it.
Amazing.
Okay. Starting with Thor Love and Thunder. We are decoding Taika Thor, which is a new kind of Thor entirely. Obviously, this is the second time we're meeting Taika Thor, and I'm calling him Taika Thor because it is Taika Thor. Gayle, thoughts on Taika Thor?
So I think Chris Hemsworth grounds what could have become a very ridiculous and over-the-top performance. He kept it emotionally sort of rooted, even when the writing was ridiculous. Like, for example, I mean, the thing that I love about Ragnarok is even though it's this big, fun, comedic movie, there's a huge sense of loss throughout it. I mean, he loses his father, he loses the sister he never knew he had, he loses his brother Loki, he loses his planet at the end of it. And then here the writing sort of makes fun of all of that. It makes fun of Loki's multiple deaths. There's that R.I.P. Loki, that tattoo that Thor has on his back. It sort of takes away from the emotional core that Ragnarok had. But I think despite Taika making him this sort of caricaturish, over-the-top character. Chris makes it work. He keeps it grounded. What do you guys think?
Suchin, Tiger Thor?
So I'm not a fan of Taika Thor. I mean, when I watched Ragnarok, I was very invested in the MCU at that point, and like I'm one of the few people who really, really liked Thor: The Dark World, and I just thought the Thor franchise was the most dramatic.
Wait, hold up. You really, not just like, you really like Thor: The Dark World? What?
I liked it, but because everyone hates it so much, suddenly I really like it. You become like
Such
a
a
defender.
mess. Acha, just out of spite now you like it.
It's not that bad on rewatch. I really disliked it when I watched it the first time all those years ago, and then now when I watch it, I was like, not so bad.
I thought we guys were friends. Oh my god. Alright, sorry to interrupt. Moving on. More about Tiger Thor.
Cause of breakup is Thor movie opinions. No, but no. So I didn't love it, but it was the fact that I love the Thor franchise because it really was this family drama you really felt, between the father and the two sons and the brothers. And I really struggled with Ragnarok, which, that I felt it very jarring. Suddenly it became a comedy. No one's taking themselves seriously. And I felt like the movie was making fun of me. And ironically, I knew why they needed to do it, change the direction, as a producer, give it comedy, give it more. But I really struggled with like one movie, it's dramatic, then comedy, then Endgame, it's somewhere in between. And ironically, for Thor: Love and Thunder, I was excited for Taika Thor this time because I'm so disillusioned with the MCU overall that now I'm the opposite of what I was then. I just want a great standalone, funny comic book, comedy film. I don't care how it affects the other movies and any of that stuff. And despite that, I felt really let down. I just thought that this was just one giant cartoon. There were so many jokes, and it was just sort of so blurry that I literally can barely remember much of the movie. And I saw it like 2 days ago. So yeah, I just thought, some of the jokes were fun, but beyond that, they've diluted it so much that it just felt so movie for the sake of a movie kind of thing.
Yeah. I was a huge fan of Taika Waititi's interpretation of Thor because it was so different from like the initial Kenneth Branagh and then eventual other filmmakers. And even when Avengers Assemble began to happen, and then Thor was already kind of turning into like a more chilled out because he had camaraderie and he had friends, and for the first time he was with people who he was fighting alongside, not just for Asgard but like different kinds of people, different cultures and everything. So yeah, but Taika Thor to me in Ragnarok was a complete revelation. It was a more committed depiction of the superhero because the intent going in Ragnarok was to change Thor. So that commitment, that idea to create a new kind of superhero, this is your framework, but you're creating a new kind of superhero, was very exciting. And the way Taika Waititi managed to pull it off, and he was a very exciting filmmaker as well, the kinds of stories he chooses to tell and the way he works with his actors and the way he put himself in the film. It was like the first time we were seeing such absurdist humor, and coming from like a Norse god. It was just amazing. But having said that, it kind of was lightning in a bottle. Let's go back to my amazing presentation and then talk about that a little bit more. So let's talk about Taika Waititi. What made Thor Ragnarok different for me, and you guys, I have hyperlinks in this presentation, okay? What made Thor Ragnarok different for me was the cast that he put together. And until this very moment, I had forgotten that Karl Urban was in Thor Ragnarok. I had completely forgotten that he was there because that film to me is just about Chris Hemsworth's metamorphosis into this person who Taika Waititi is directing. But look at this cast, right? There's Kate Blanchett, Mark Ruffalo, Jeff Goldblum, of course Tessa Thompson is there, and
Matt Damon.
Matt Damon तो उसमें भी था और इसमें भी है. But they Rachel House, this actor on the left here, she's played Topaz in that film, and she's also an actor from Maori descent. She's from New Zealand, so that also felt like Taika Waititi is really bringing in his own flavor to this ensemble cast, because he's from New Zealand and he's indigenous as well, and they were all playing off of each other's energies, which helped create or resurrect Thor in this way. Because if you're playing off of Jeff Goldblum energy, Jeff Goldblum just plays himself in every film, right? So if you're working with that, then if you're working with a Mark Ruffalo who's playing a Dr. Banner in like the Avengers style, where he's like fun Hulk and things, and then there's Kate Blanchett clearly having the time of her life, it made sense then. So that, I think, was one of the bigger reasons that made Thor Ragnarok different from everything else that we had seen before. What do you think?
Also they let him make a movie. Like Marvel doesn't let you make a movie, right? You just like you're supposed to execute whatever. You get 15 minutes and it's all action scenes. It's all, directors get very little. It's one of the few films where they let the director leave their stamp and do something very distinctive with it. Very few filmmakers, you can count them on your hands, the ones who've actually been allowed to do something slightly different rather than basically just do the same thing in the same way. James Gunn, Taika are probably the two big examples. So I think that's a big reason why it was so distinctive. You can, when you're watching a movie, you can feel it's a Taika movie. And there are very few Marvel films you can say that about, where you can feel the presence of any director. Spider-Man is probably the best example where it could have been made by literally anyone and you can't tell.
Gayle?
Also, I think for me, the humor in that film worked a lot because of the presence of Loki. And then when you have the God of Mischief, you start to see that mischief then permeate.
Yes, like
throughout
Tom
the movie.
Hiddleston was not even in that picture that I just showed. But yes, it was a huge part of that film.
Yeah, so right from when Thor comes back to Asgard and he sees Loki staging that ridiculous play, you immediately look at that and go, yes, that is exactly what someone as chaotic as Loki would do.
Yeah.
It just makes sense. And I guess I really felt the void, the absence of Loki in this film.
Terribly.
Yeah.
Terribly, because them playing those games in the elevator and then fighting together and then
Yeah.
fighting against each other, none of that was there. And Korg can only do that much, like Korg is not Loki. They don't have a history there that we're invested in. Suchin, you were saying something.
Yeah.
No, I was just going to say, actually, Loki was one of the things I actually really struggled with in Ragnarok, because for me, he's such a tragic, complicated figure. You feel for him, he's the villain in Avengers, and in Dark World, again, it gets very emotional. And suddenly he becomes like cheeky Loki. In Ragnarok, he's just like, like unscrewing the salt and pepper kind of guy. And I was like, didn't you just try and kill some people, then sacrifice yourself? So that, was a
For
bit
me,
of a...
how Loki became the bit of a joker actually worked, because he's a god of mischief, and he was finally up to like so much like Dennis the Menace that it was just delightful to watch. And also, like, Gayle and I both have a Tom Hiddleston bias. I'm sure Suchin, you have a Tom Hiddleston bias also. Who doesn't have a Tom Hiddleston bias? He's now engaged and he's having a child, and like I'm newly married, but I'm still like निकल गया हाथ से, जैसे कि मेरा तो चांस था टॉम हिडलस्टन के साथ. I felt that was the feeling. That was the overwhelming emotion कि गया, चलो, he's off the market now. मतलब मैं shopping करने जा रही हूँ.
But one thing I wanted to ask you guys about the fact that there is no Loki in Love and Thunder, and you really feel it. I've never found, like, I really struggled with Thor, the character of Thor in this movie. I've always either felt for him, and he's got like a lot of appeal in Hemsworth's performance, but I found him one of the worst things about this movie. He was just so empty for me. He really just was, it was like either just quip, annoying. He literally was just like buffoon with biceps kind of. I really struggled with his character.
Gayle?
I think the issue is when you look at Thor in isolation and he doesn't have someone to play off, that's when that becomes a problem. Someone to like ground his more ridiculous antics. Like for me, the relationship between Thor and Loki really worked and is to me more enduring and more special than any romantic relationships Thor has had. For me, the reason Thor Ragnarok really works towards the end is because you see Loki showing up for Thor after like their whole fraught history, all of that bitterness, all of the ugliness. He finally decides to show up for Thor, and their relationship, you feel like it's getting a fresh start. Here in Love and Thunder, what really works for me was the Thor and Mighty Thor relationship. Something that got sidelined for a while, but then to me, they did it beautifully here. The whole montage of them reliving their relationship, their breakup. So I think when you write a Thor that's ridiculous, you need someone to ground him. You need someone to give him that emotion, and that's where it works. But then, I don't know, still in this movie, there was too much of a tonal whiplash. Like you said, Korg, maybe just Korg, I guess, is someone who amplifies his worst instincts, who amplifies his comedic side, and not in a good way.
Korg to me was primarily an exposition device. Just somebody to kind of remind the viewers what the story so far has been, because it's been a few years since we saw Ragnarok, and to remind everybody why Thor is now this new personality and new kind of person, because ye uske saath hua hai, falana. And Taika Waititi, the fact that he plays Korg himself, he wants to set the tone, because the film begins with Korg's voiceover, I think. He sets the tone of the film, that this is how it's going to be. I am back in my New Zealand accent. I'm playing a rock. And then towards the end he's also dating Dwayne the Rock. It's cute, but Korg just stretched out beyond its comedic capabilities very very quick. It was funny when we first met him. He wanted to start a revolution but couldn't do it because he didn't print enough pamphlets.
Yeah.
Hilarious. So novel, so novel. But here he just, I think, stretched out a little bit. What did you guys think of the random Guardians of the Galaxy starting and the fact that they teased that in the trailer as well, that Chris Pratt and Chris Hemsworth are going to be coming together for the whole film and they're there for 5 minutes?
I mean, I definitely expected them to be there for like maximum 15 minutes. So I knew that there was no way it was going to be a Guardians film. But even the way it was used, the fact that you see them and you're like, that's cool, they're there. And then before you know it, they're gone. And I think one of the worst scenes for me was the Chris Pratt Thor thing. That was a pure exposition-y. It's Chris Pratt telling Thor and telling us, you really need to find yourself. You know, Thor's become like Ranbir Kapoor at this point. He's been finding himself for 3 movies. And there was just an unnecessary exchange, and they were trying to use jokes to like cloud it up. But yeah, I just thought that Guardians did nothing. It's great for the trailer, and they were there. Yeah, they were used so badly. But I mean, yeah.
I mean, I guess it's the sort of baggage that comes that they got saddled with at the end of Endgame, right? Because Thor goes off with them. So they had to tie it up in some way quickly.
Yeah.
I enjoyed them, but like you said, the Chris Pratt thing was complete exposition and summing up the movie's themes. And yeah, it went on for too long.
We're just going to take a quick look at this. What in the world were they thinking when they gave us blonde Thor? Y'all, Kenneth Branagh ka decision tha ye, I'm sure, because he was the first one who brought him to screen. But look, Chris Hemsworth, like, it's such a bad dyeing job. Kitna ganda dye kiya hai.
I really like this visual. I don't know why. Every time I see this, it reminds, because I don't know, it's really dumb, but like when he's at this stage in the first film, he really is the arrogant, warmongering, power-hungry guy. And there's something about the haircut and just the entire look where he just looks, or maybe it's just because I associate this with the emotion, but this reminds me so much of the sort of immature kid he was. And I think I was just a fan of that arc so much that, like, maybe it's the length of his hair, but I can tell you exactly where he was on his journey just by this visual. I don't know why.
Terrible, Suchin. Just when I thought we could be friends again.
Did I just intellectualize blonde hair? I did.
That's fine, but your and my opinions on old Thor clearly do not match.
I like old Thor.
Do not match. Look at this. Like, I was watching this YouTube clip from Some More News, like a great channel on YouTube, and that guy Cody Johnson was like, why does he suddenly have brown eyebrows? Like, did he originally have brown eyebrows and he dyed them golden when he first came to the earth? Or did he always have golden eyebrows, and now that he has cool friends, he has decided that his eyebrows are now going to be brown again? What is the deal here? And are we ever going to address this? Suchin, you have an answer to that question, I suppose.
Eyebrows I can live with. Literally the morning of when we were about to watch Love and Thunder screening, I messaged Gayle, because the thing that really annoys me more than eyebrows is I couldn't remember what his eye situation was. Every 2 movies, it's eye, 1 eye, 2 eyes, 1 eye.
I know!
Even the hammer situation, you have a hammer, you don't have a hammer, you don't need a hammer, but you need a bigger hammer. I literally messaged her saying, what is the eye situation? What's the hammer situation before this movie? I don't remember.
So his eyes are both now back.
Yeah, and the hammer is the bigger one because he needs it or he doesn't need it.
Stormbreaker is a continuity thing from last time because Hela came and she broke the thing.
Yeah.
Speaking of Hela, I'm gonna show. We go back to this and hello, Hela. Kate Blanchett also was one of the stronger reasons why Thor Ragnarok worked the way it did, because like just to see her on screen fighting these 2 boys, Chris Hemsworth and Loki, Tom Hiddleston, was just so exciting. What a great visual. And like, it's Kate Blanchett, like she's been around for a long time. So it's not like it's, some new person or whatever. It's the legendary Kate Blanchett, and she comes and you see this shot in the trailer. She's taken the hammer and she just kind of squeezes it and it goes. How exciting. How exciting. So now let's talk about antagonists now that we are here. Does Thor and Love and Thunder work? And was Christian Bale in the same film as the rest of them? Gayle.
Christian Bale, his performance to me was the best performance in the movie. I thought Natalie Portman was incredible as Mighty Thor. She was just wielding that hammer like it was second nature to her. But for me, my favorite part of the movie is just that cold open where Christian Bale is walking in the desert and his skin is sizzling and
peeling off. It felt like
off.
a completely different film. It was tonally just such a different movie.
Yeah. And I think, at least in that scene, I remember Christian Bale's despair and his entire performance is pitched so much lower than the rest of like this loud, noisy movie that's just throwing things at you, which makes it somehow all the more effective. Like when his daughter dies, his grief is so quiet, it's so understated. When he picks up the necro sword, you sort of see his righteous anger. Yeah, he was in a completely different movie.
Sujin?
I mean, I agree. He was in a different, he was a different movie. He was the only thing in the film for me which felt like a performance, someone you actually feel for. But it just didn't come together for me. I mean, he really was sort of giving his all to that performance. He took it seriously. But I kept trying to think of Hela and why I thought she was a great villain without the backstory, without the need to empathize with her. She had so much fun and she was so scary, and I was just trying to understand why. Because for me, and also then I started, when you start noticing things you find silly. So there were times where like I just towards the end of the film, he was doing his whole thing, and I just thought he looked like a knockoff Voldemort or like a Palpatine from Star Wars.
100%.
Yeah, and I couldn't take it seriously, and maybe because you start looking for things because you're not connected with it emotionally, maybe.
I mean, Taika Waititi said also in an interview that they had to change up the appearance of Gore, the God Butcher. Ek to the fuck kind of name is Gore, the God Butcher. So heavy-handed. They had to change that name, change his appearance because in the comic books he looks too much like Voldemort.
Yeah.
So, but then in the movie, he's still looking like Voldemort.
Yeah.
His nails and his ganja head and
it's not just the look; it's the way he talks.
He's
he does
performing
this whole,
like Voldemort.
Yeah,
also.
the jaw. He does this whole like dramatic
It's
jaw
so
acting.
derivative, and then he
Yeah.
approaches like this, and it's very reminiscent of the graveyard scene in the fourth Harry Potter movie when Voldemort comes back to life, and Harry is stuck to that cross, whatever the grave, and his grandfather's. Tom's father's grave, and Voldemort like slides towards him and approaches him with a finger. There's a different camera angle, but a very similar shot here as well. And I was like, this feels just like he's in a different movie, and it's tonally so off when they're having a face off. Okay, now this is a tragic character who they redeem somewhat in the end, because then his daughter comes back to life, and she's played by Chris Hemsworth's real daughter India, which I thought was such a cute touch. She comes back to life from eternity, and so he is like this dramatic tragic character who's everything. He starts out like he has an origin story. Everything is lost for him. He's lost his daughter, and you really feel for him in that moment when in the beginning when he's laying with his daughter's grave. Like it was just very moving, and I was very excited. I saw that montage, and I was like, this movie is going to be like a great film. If this is how it's starting, it's going to have drama. And then it had Chris Pratt. So even when Gore and Thor are having a face off, Thor is doing this. I'm like, is this supposed to be funny, or am I supposed to be moved by the plight of this bad guy who is killing gods because gods took everything from him? It was so confusing. Like there was too much coming at me, which I was not, emotionally understanding fast enough, and then the emotion changes too quick.
Also, I struggle with the world building because I mean, I know that they can do anything, but I feel like we've watched 30 of these movies by now. When they randomly say there are gods, and I'm like, okay, did we know that? I know there was Thor and Asgardians, but we're just supposed to take the fact that there are gods. I don't know what that means. Then Zeus exists. And like, for example, in a Guardians movie, I get it. You go to new planets, there are new aliens and new worlds. I'm open to that idea. Here, they just like throw in a whole new world of things that existed, which they're telling us now for the first time. And I know that's going to keep happening, but that to me was just like, okay, so tomorrow you can just be like, you can do anything. And you're like, okay, fine, fair enough.
Change it up. Speaking of Zeus, we're going to give you a major spoiler, everybody here. Please, chale jao. Mid-credit scene, you guys. Hercules has entered the building. And Hercules is played by Roy Kent from Ted Lasso, Brett Goldstein. Right? That's his name now? Gayle?
Yeah.
Brett Goldstein.
That is his name, yeah.
Oh my god! I saw that mid-credit scene and I squealed. And I was watching the 7 a.m. show, so I was like one of 5 people in the auditorium, and I literally let out a squeal. Because that was legit the last actor I would have guessed. If someone had said that take 50 guesses, who is going to play Hercules? 50 guesses mein Brett Goldstein ka naam nahi aata. And I love him so much. He is such a great performer in Ted Lasso. No one says fuck off better than him. And he has his, like, he's here, he's there, he's every fucking where, Roy Kent. I love him. Thoughts, people. Thoughts on Roy
I'm
Kent.
just here for the Ted Lasso takeover of the MCU. Like the guy who played Danny Roja shows up in the end credit scene of what was the last movie? Spider-Man: No Way Home.
Yeah,
And I'm happy to see
he's
Roy
a
Kent here.
bartender
I'm here
serving
for this
drink to
crossover.
Venom.
Yes.
I absolutely loved it. I haven't liked a Marvel post-credit scene in like 7 movies. I'm just at this point, I was tired. And this is the one thing that suddenly, because I remember talking to Gayle about this. They do this thing, they've done this for 3 movies now. They'll introduce a random famous person in a random costume and say that's Thanos's second ex-wife or something. And you're like, okay, that's a big deal. Like they did that in Eternals and they did that in Doctor Strange. It was, and you're like, okay.
That's literally Doctor Strange, where Strange meets Dormammu's niece, played by Charlize Theron, and then they don't even say her name, and you're supposed to watch the credits and figure out who she is.
Which is going to make a very nice segue into the boys, but I'm going to let Suchin finish his thought.
No, and then Eternals was One Direction, and it's like, well, that's Thanos' cousin or niece or brother or something. I'm like, okay, cool. So they could just do anything in any name. You just take any. It's like take any famous actor, take any famous random name and thing. But this one was actually exciting because it was Brett Goldstein. He's so funny, and you can already tell he's going to have such a blast with the role, and nobody's going to take it seriously. And it just woke me up.
And I was just so happy that there is one more eye candy for me in the Marvel films, because that's literally the only thing that I'm excited about anymore. कौन से hot actors add होते जा रहे हैं, क्योंकि इस picture में लोकी नहीं था तो मैं बहुत sad थी उसको लेके. पर Chris Hemsworth has always been too big and like too much muscly for me to be attracted to, just speaking from a purely attraction scale level. But I've been so attracted to Roy Kent throughout Ted Lasso, like, and my husband knows this. And Dan, I really hope you're not watching this because I'm spoiling this for you completely. So yes, so now speaking of Charlize Theron, that makes for a great segue into our next thing that we're talking about. But let's just take some comments before that. Let's see. Bifer says, I can't believe I caught you live. Vikrant says, great casting. Ted Lasso is everything. Siddharth is saying, love has the Stormbreaker now. Thor only has Mjolnir. Huh? Again, like, who asked for the Stormbreaker, Mjolnir, and Thor love triangle? Like,
that was kind of silly and fun in a silly way.
It was a great Taika Waititi setup.
Yeah.
But it just became so stretched. Again, it was like Cog. It's like खींचे जा रहे हैं, खींचे जा रहे हैं, खींचे जा रहे हैं. The goats were fucking hilarious though. Oh my god.
Can I also just say that's one of the worst shoehorning of a title into the end monologue that I've ever seen. Like, to me, Thor Love and Thunder was self-explanatory. I got the themes, I got what they were going for, and then they shoehorn that into the end monologue, and I was like, oh, nope, I'm out.
I had no idea that Gore, the God Butcher's daughter, is called Love, and then the scene preceding that became even lamer for me, because it's like, you want love. Everybody only ever wants love. At that point, I was like, ye picture gayi haath se. And then you reveal that his daughter's name is Love, and I'm just like, shut up. Just shut up. Like, shut up. Out.
Also, because maybe this movie came too close to like Multiverse of Madness, but for me this felt like a retread of like Wanda's arc all over again, like a villain who's like lost her child.
Yeah.
She's found an object that's slowly corrupting her. It's the whole arc all over again.
Yeah, so they've run out of ideas, clearly.
Yeah.
Okay, so now moving on to
a show that definitely hasn't run out of ideas.
Yes.
It is the superhero antidote of our times. The boys, Carl Urban and everyone else. Gayle has met these people recently and spoken to them about season 3. But let us start with some initial thoughts. Gayle, The Boys season 3. Satisfactory enough for you?
For me, the show just keeps getting better. Like, for me, the one thing that didn't really work this season was this sort of social commentary that they did. For me, in season 2, I think they did it so much better, where they introduced Stormfront. Yeah, where they introduced Stormfront. And there was that toxic mix of like white supremacy and social media amplifying that. To me, here this season, it didn't have much of an impact. I mean, men are fragile and would rather burn the world down than going to therapy. Like, this is not groundbreaking information. We know this. The social commentary didn't work, but one thing I really loved about the season was the character work. I think they went deeper into every character's backstory. We got to see different sides to them. We got to go back into the past. They made me really feel for Black Noir, like a character I never gave a second thought
I was
to.
not ready for that cartoon sequence.
Yeah.
No.
So good.
No.
Sorry, I keep interrupting you, Gayle, but you can interrupt me right back.
I was just going to say that I think they did some incredible work with regard to the characters, maybe not so much the social themes. Like for me, I find the Kendall Jenner Pepsi ad great fun. I find the Gal Gadot Imagine video just made me laugh so
We're
hard when
gonna
I
we're
realized
gonna
what
come
was
to that. We're
happening.
gonna come to that. We're gonna come to that.
Yeah.
Suchin, initial thoughts.
No, I absolutely loved it. You know, it's one of those things where every time I hear a criticism of season three, I always think that I get where you're coming from. Exactly like what Gayle was saying. You know, the way they sort of try to talk about so much. There was another thing I read that said that they sort of this season felt a bit more rushed. And I'm like, all of these are good points. I don't disagree, but they were never a deal breaker for me because it's such a great show. Also, it's such a weird one to discuss. Like I have, you know, when I talk about it with sort of people who don't watch it, they just sound like it's just such a silly show. And I was like, how? It's so hard to explain that this is an outrageous, insane, you know, whale destruction show, but it's also insane cultural commentary, and it's so personal about just fundamentally broken people. You know, it's fantastic drama. It's just out of this world crazy, and at the same time, it's very political. And just the fact that it's so hard to just explain the boys in 2 lines to someone who's not familiar with it is such a triumph of the show.
Yeah, same. I felt the same way when I sat down to finally write about it because I watched the show a month ago, so I've been stewing in it every month, and every week when a new episode drops, you read about it, you read some articles, you read some interviews, and you get press releases, and you know you find out some behind the scenes stories. So I've been stewing, living with the show for like over a month now, and then when I finally sat down to write it because I was waiting for the finale to come to finally then write about the show as a whole, I was like, where do I start? Where do you start with this show, right? It's so deep, it's so dense, and it's only like getting denser and more layered as you go. And I mean, Gail, I know you feel that पिछले season में ज़्यादा था, but मुझे तो लगा कि इस season में बहुत ही ज़्यादा they went like really like mercilessly trolled reality and celebrity culture and celebrity worship in like the best ways possible. So let's get started with that. Let's come to that. Where is my beautiful presentation? Here it is. Okay, so parodying life. I have now picked our favorite scenes that we felt, the three of us. सबसे बढ़िया parody कौन सी थी? Starting with Suchin, you felt that okay, this is not the actual scene because उस scene का screenshot मुझे मिला नहीं, but you felt that the final scene with Homelander and Ryan
Yeah.
was the best scene. Explain why.
So I think to some extent all of the rally scenes, you know, the Trump rally-esque scenes, but this one I've also been reading about a lot, and so this is a scene basically they've taken out of reality because it's a scene based on something Trump or someone said, where he literally said if Trump shot someone, it still won't affect his you know, popularity, and that's exactly what inspired the scene. That's exactly what Homelander does. He literally, you know, he can do anything, and because he's decided that okay, these sort of violent nut jobs are my people, they're my audience. And it was so sort of scary to see that play out, and you know just how that sort of MM's sort of the stepfather reacted to that, where you know the looking at that sort of Homelander getting that violent was not a deal breaker at all. If anything, it spurs them on. And I think all of the rally scenes have been literally they just feel so uncomfortably accurate. Even the previous rally, which sees MM, you know, take MM's daughter is taken by her stepfather, and it's, you know, when he's at home, he has to explain to this man who's, you know, reading Facebook articles about how insane the truth is, the reality of these people are.
Yeah.
And he's like, no, I've read a few articles, you know, I'll educate you. And you're like, this person is so warped, and the conditioning is on another level. And like we've all been in those scenarios where you're like, where do I start? And this person, they're never gonna sort of take it. So it just, you know, these are superheroes, but that scene really resonated with me, and you felt it.
Fully with you on that. Gail, let's look at this scene that you have picked. Everybody in the comments in the live stream is saying hero-gasm. Ha, thanks for that, everyone. But hero-gasm is not parodying anything in real life. That's not a real life situation that actually happens in this world.
Oh, let's
That we know of.
That we know of. Listen, 20 people, 30 people orgies are not a social problem. You're having 30, 40 people orgies, good for you. You know, swing away, whatever. That's not really a social problem. What we're discussing here, everyone in the live stream, is the real life depiction of all the issues that our world is facing that the boys incorporates into the show. Also, everybody who's watching, please इस live stream को like करो, क्योंकि if you hit that like button, तो फिर और लोगों के पास ये stream जाएगी, फिर उन्हें पता चलेगा कि ये live stream हो रहा है, and then they'll come and join us. So if you're watching me right now, everybody, Nihal, Rohit, Vikrant, SN, Mood क्या है, Supriya, hit the like button, thumbs up कर दो इसको. Now, Gayle, I'm going to go back to the presentation to show everybody the scene that you have picked that, according to you, best imitates life. The celebrity sing-along. Explain.
Yeah, I mean, once I realized what was happening, I just couldn't stop laughing. But that's one of my issues with this season. The Kendall Jenner Pepsi parodies, they're great fun, but they're more like, hey guys, remember when this thing happened? It was stupid, and we all made fun of it. It to me never went deeper than that.
These are all 2-year-old occurrences also. All of this happened in
I
2020.
mean, I'll make allowances for that because of the pandemic. I'm sure that their production was
Yeah.
out of whack and they had to rejig stuff. But yeah, for me, these things never went beyond, never became insightful. They were just like, hey guys, remember when this happened? Fun.
But isn't it part of basically the dumb shit the sort of celebrity machinery does to, like it's like A-Train's, Africa movie and stuff. It's basically the ridiculous extents they go to. So I know what you mean. They feel like standalone skits you laugh at, but it
Yeah.
works because for me it worked because I thought they just kind of commenting on these are the Bollywood superstars and here's all the dumb shit they're doing which they think is woke.
Seen here jacked Kumail Nanjiani as well. I cannot believe how jacked this actor got. Love him. I love him.
Even though he's done nothing good ever since getting jacked. Sorry, I have to say that.
Eternals shade. Yeah,
He
I
got
know.
so jacked and then sat out the final fight in Eternals where his muscles might have come in use. I mean,
से
can
कुछ
we
कराया क्यों नहीं
acknowledge
आपने? इतना जैक हो गया बंदा और एक गंदा सा एक बॉलीवुड डांस दे दिया उसको, which again was just like यार this अभी आज के दिन डेट में तो ये मत करो यार, प्लीज मत करो ये सब.
Also, he wasn't the comedic relief for me in that film. I thought he didn't work for what they wanted him for. It was his manager. I can't remember the actor's name. Who was so wonderful and lovable.
Yes.
He was. That was what that he did
Hurtela.
everything.
Now we are discussing Eternals in the middle of our live stream about
Sorry.
the boys. But let's go back to the scene that I have picked. That is the Blue Hawk subplot and the scene where he yells out loud, "Soup lives matter."
Yeah.
Obviously Blue Hawk is the personification of everything wrong with America's police system right now, and he's called Blue Hawk because blue uniform. There is so like when we saw the Black Lives Matter movement from this part of the world, and we weren't active participants, but we were very keenly following and observing how that country was going through everything that it was right when the pandemic also began. You saw some police officers and precincts do lip service. They took a knee and they sat down and they stood with the protesters and everything. And I thought it was very clever how the show makes all of that one person. That whole movement, like everything else, they're parodying, like the Kendall Jenner ad, which is like low-hanging fruit, right? It's so easy to make fun of the Kardashian Jenners, and then they'd go ahead and do something stupid like Pepsi पी लो और दुनिया में शांति हो जाएगी. It's so easy to make fun of that. It's ripe to be for the picking to make fun of. It's the lowest hanging fruit. This I thought was very clever how they took a whole seismic shift in civic structure of a country and condensed it to one person, and then also made poignant points using this person. He goes and apologizes in one local meeting where he's making a donation, so there's some lip service involved, and then A-Train's character also comes into play here because A-Train is from the black community. He's a black man, but he is working for what corporation, so he's also going through this internal thing that where do I stand, like my people, my brother. And I thought it was really clever how they brought his brother back in such a major way, and where he comes from, his roots, and through Blue Hawk. And then Blue Hawk, in one passionate moment right after he seemingly apologized, yells out loud, "Soup lives matter," which is like everyone saying these lives matter and that lives. When people come up and say Black Lives Matter, that's when everyone is also like, no, but we also matter. No one's saying you don't matter. Anyway, that's not the point. So I thought that this was a very moving. Blue Hawk was brought in as a character only for this, and then his disingenuity, his lying, and his corruption becomes the starting point for his own destruction. He has one of the most gruesome deaths in the show at the hands of A-Train, when A-Train right after Herogasm, if you all remember, कि एकदम ही Herogasm के बाद A-Train को इतना गुस्सा आता है इसके ऊपर कि वो इसको लेके टांग से खींच हुआ ले जाता है, and by the time A Train stops running, Blue Hawk is like all over the road. He's literally in
It's
shreds.
also it's also like it has to be sort of, it speaks to the triumph of the world and the writing of the show that this is such an obvious social messagey thing, but it never feels like a tick box. It never feels like what else can we, what other political thing can we comment on. It really felt so organic. It never feels jarring, even though it's so obvious what they're doing. I never felt like I'm out of the show. It really feels like it belongs and it works so well that whether it's this, whether it's sort of the debates, whether it's the politics, the rallies, it really speaks to what a great show it is.
Yeah. Gail, what did you think of
Also,
Blue
I'm
Hawk?
really glad that they didn't kill off A-Train after he murdered Blue Hawk, because that would have been such a cop out and such
Yeah.
an unearned redemption arc.
Yeah.
Because nothing would have changed. His activism would have still been performative. He would have never really understood his community's issues.
Yeah.
It would have become a personal vendetta that would have redeemed him. I'm glad that he survived that whole running around killing Blue Hawk, and now he has Blue Hawk's heart, which has to be something really weird for him to
Yeah.
contend with in the next season, right? Imagine being a black person and having the heart of a racist that's
Yeah.
giving you life. This is some great writing, I thought.
So deep, na? So dense, so nice. It's it's like a novel. Like every page is a new like scene. It's beautiful. Now let's talk about the most exciting character or the most interesting character for us in season 3 specifically. Suchin, we'll again start with you. You picked MM.
Yeah,
Talk
so
to me.
for me, what I really, like every season is just about the idea of being corrupted, right? You have good guys and bad guys, and the boys are the good guys and Soups are the bad guys, and how it's actually not that simple. It's really not that black and white. And Butcher is a great example of just how messed up the good guys can be and start looking like the bad guys. And I think both for MM and Starlight this season, as you see Butcher just being Butcher and just like playing with his soul, and Huey get more and more corrupted. And they'll, it's I think it's a very male thing of constantly making yourself sound like the victim, and they'll always, you can imagine sitting them down and asking them, what the hell are you guys doing? And they'd be so convinced this is the only way, we have to play, you can't play by the rules, the bad guys don't play by the rules, that whole sort of justification. And I love that both for MM and Starlight, they really were the humanity, they really were, like for him specifically, it really was, it doesn't have to be this way. You don't have to sell your soul to bring down the bad guys. And so I really thought he was the moral center this season, and like he makes a great case for why he should be leading the boys throughout. And I love the fact that obviously they made the Soldier Boy arc, how they tied that to him, and you really got a sense. I love that in season 3 we have found out so much more about this character that we didn't know before, and it was so well done. So yeah, for me, he really was sort of as close to what hope and sort of could look like, and sort of finding some sense of peace can look like for any of these characters who are so messed up.
And MM this season was the only Muggle who
Yeah.
like Frenchie has Kimiko, and Frenchie and Kimiko kind of fuse into one character after a point. And Frenchie also has like his science, and he's like a brainiac. Butcher shoots Compound V. Huey shoots Compound V. So MM was the only one in this season who did not have any enhanced power in the lead cast, and he automatically then became the humane angle, and then you get introduced to his family a little bit more, and it is also a great way to show how families have been torn apart by recent politics in America. You read Facebook posts like Suchin, you already discussed. So yeah, no, I completely agree with you.
It's also, sorry, I just wanted to say, it's also the idea of, all of these people are so messed up. They all have such sort of traumatic backgrounds, and most of them just sit with their trauma or say, I'm screwed up, I'm beyond help. And he's the only one, maybe Huey to an extent, where he ends up with talking to his daughter in that final scene. It was sort of accepting your flaws, embracing your past, and trying to work towards being better, versus everyone else just sitting in their crap and being like, yeah, I'm beyond help.
He's also,
Alright.
I think, the only person in the show who sort of has a line he won't cross. Like here, like you said, even in the show, the good guys, they stoop to some pretty deplorable things.
Yeah.
Their boundaries are constantly porous or shifting. MM has drawn that line of like not taking Compound V or Temp V, and he doesn't. Even though his personal vendetta, you can see it's weighing on his mind heavily. You can see he wants justice for his family, but it's the one line he's determined not to cross, and he doesn't do it.
And even multiple times, given the chance, he has the personal vendetta in his sights, and he has the ability to choose the mission and choose saving people. It's a thing that will never make him Butcher. Butcher will always choose himself and his thing. But yeah, even in Herogasm, MM chooses saving people, and that's what makes him who he is.
Herogasm, man. What a ridiculous episode. Jesus Christ.
If by ridiculous you mean greatest thing ever made ever, yeah, I agree.
Listen, gigantic penises snaking across the screens I was just very put off by that. I was like, and it's not even like good guy dick, it's bad guy dick. Like, I'm not interested. No, Gayle,
So for me, the ending of Herogasm was one of the most thrilling moments in the show for me, where it's just Homelander versus Huey and Butcher and Soldier Boy.
Yeah.
Yeah, it feels like one of those moments where all of the plotting and the scheming and the double crossing finally pays off, and it's genuinely thrilling to just watch.
Very exciting. Gayle has picked two characters very exciting this season for her, Queen Maeve and Frenchie. Tell us.
To me, Maeve has always been underrated, but I particularly love her this season because she starts out as someone who's trying to be better. She's given up drinking. She's working on herself. But also, there's this deep core of sadness you can see when Starlight talks to her. Starlight is like, "Do you really hate yourself that much?" She's always seen herself as the one who has to fall on the grenade for the rest of the team. She sees no outcome in which she comes out of this alive, which I think is really sad. But I also think that it's a really beautifully written arc that she starts the season as someone who can't love herself, and then she winds up saving everyone through an act of love where she sacrifices herself for them. I'm just really happy she got a happy ending this season because those are rare in the show. I didn't expect that for her.
Queen Maeve seen her cosplaying as one-eyed Thor. पता चलेगा अगले सीजन में इसकी भी दोनों आंखें वापस आ जाएंगी. This was also too much to watch. Homelander like literally take her eye out. My God. The second character you've picked here is Frenchie in the fabulous musical episode the screenshot is from, which is such a, like, obviously when they break out into song and dance, you're like, theek hai, this is a dream sequence. Obviously Kimiko is thinking this in her mind because, you know, we'll speak about Kimiko shortly. Talk to me about Frenchie this season, Gayle. Why have you picked him?
Before I get into Frenchie, I just want to say that Maeve's also one in one of the most horrifying scenes this season, where Homelander just says that he'll harvest her eggs and have a child, and she's completely powerless.
Yeah.
That to me was an especially horrifying moment because she's Maeve, one of the strongest soups in this universe, and even she's powerless in front of Homelander. And just that invasion of her bodily autonomy is just, I thought they did that really well.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Frenchie.
Coming to Frenchie, this is a show about abusive fathers and how the people who spend their whole life outrunning their abusive fathers grow up to be just like them. Butcher, for all his good intentions, is turning out to be exactly like his abusive father. He doesn't know where to draw the line anymore. Huey is sort of the only thing giving him some, tethering him to humanity in some way. Similarly, Homelander's turned out to be like his abusive father, Soldier Boy, who also had an abusive father who told him he was a disappointment.
And he's continuing it because he also
With
has a
Ryan,
son now.
Yeah, and Ryan is turning out to be exactly like Homelander. To me, Frenchie's story is particularly heartbreaking because he's someone who had an abusive father and still turned out to be someone who's kind, who sees the humanity in other people, who saw the humanity in Kimiko when no one else did. Yeah, he hasn't grown up to be like his abusive father, but you can see that he's still trying to outrun that.
Yeah, I agree.
I love the moment when he stands up to Butch. I know it's a very sort of throwaway thing. I know it comes in a more significant moment where it's like, bro, we have better things to do. But I know it was such a big deal to him, you know, that it really felt like he had, you know, he'd confronted how he really was sort of so like a doormat for so many people. And even the last scene where you see Butcher walk into the office, you know, it really feels like something has shifted. All of them, you know, realize that they actually kind of work for their own version of Homeland and they're not going to stand for it anymore. And it just felt, again, it's the idea of maybe there is hope for fundamentally broken people. You know, for for Frenchie, maybe there is a sense of they can have a better tomorrow, which I really like.
Frenchie and are the non-enhanced people in the group, but Frenchie comes from a place where he has nothing to lose, and he is like this vagabond who's just going from one place to the next until he finds Kimiko and until he finds a home with the boys. The boys are his only family. Still has another family to protect. He's protecting his daughter, so his motivation comes from that. Like, I will do anything to protect my daughter, and I will do anything to make this world a better place for my daughter. And because I have a daughter, I will never shoot up Compound V because I don't know what it will do to me. Frenchie, on the other hand, has finally found a family, has finally found a group of people that he is willing to work with, but in that also he's still looking for his own individuality. Who he is as a person. He's finally finally beginning to figure that out in a very solid way. And there is some great dramatic writing, acting, character development. I absolutely love Frenchie in the musical episode. Like I was literally in tears watching them sing and dance, because these are the two people who live in their own world. So their love story, Frenchie and Kimiko's love story, is like this. In their head, they are holding hand and dancing and having fun, because when they're with each other, they only have eyes for each other. No one else around them means anything at all. So when they actually break into song and dance, and I'm like, yeah, like Noir's world is in cartoons. This is their world. I think this is how they imagine they spend time with each other. When they're with each other, this is what their love to each other looks like. It's bright, everybody's wearing new clothes, it's clean. Which brings me to my pick of the lot. Let me share my screen again. I have picked Kimiko as my favorite character this season because of the reasons that I just said. And also, she is so tragic, and even more tragic in season 3. She is the one enhanced person who did not ask for her powers, was not interested in becoming powerful, and she wants to give it up no matter what. She does not, and then when her powers are taken from her, she's actually happy about it. She's not cut up like Frenchie is cut up about it, and he's like, babe, what? And she says, I can feel your arm. I can feel the weight of your arm, because before this it felt like a straw or a noodle or something, she says, and it was just weightless to me. When she can't pick up this heavy object in the hospital room, she's happy that she can't pick this thing up, and then she can finally feel her love, like she can touch his skin and she can feel it. And then you see the girl behind this enhanced murderer killer. Not to mention that when she does have her powers, she is one of the most powerful soup there is, because she's she'll kill anybody who comes in her way. And in one of the initial episodes, she really does pierce a guy's head with a dildo. Oh my god, what the fuck was that? She pierces his head with a sex toy. Holy shit. But in this season, you really get to see Kimiko, and then her tragedy doesn't end because she gets her powers back. And in a regular story, that would be a cause of celebration, but for her, it was something that she had to do, whatever. So yeah, Kimiko for me this season. You guys?
Can I
It's
also
still.
just say,
No, go for it. Go for it.
can I also just say the way Kimiko and Frenchie kept talking about their plans to run away together, I was so sure that something bad was going to happen
One
to
of them
them.
was gonna die. I was like, इनमें
Yeah.
से एक कोई मरने वाला है, foreshadowing कर रहे हैं, but नहीं मरा कोई. I was very happy.
So glad they did.
Yeah.
I did feel like the idea of her getting her powers back, it did. I know it was sort of, she did it because she had no choice, but there was this. I really loved her justification for that. There was a celebration to that I've always lived as a victim to whatever's happened to me. This is my choice. It's me, doing it on my terms. And I really felt that idea that, the fact that, yeah, I'm doing it because I want to. It's in my control, and it felt like a lot. And what you were saying about that ridiculous dildo action scene, that's another reason I love the show. Everything is in service of something. It's not a musical episode for the sake of it. It's not animation for the sake of it. There's so many people who maybe don't watch the show. They think it's just outrageous entertainment. But whether it's blowing up a whale or Herogasm, everything is in service of something, and just moments away from a really emotional moment or whatever. It's not just insane for the sake of insane, and that is what makes it so great.
Yeah. Before we move on to the next one, I have something for. I just want to show this to Gayle and Suchin. You might enjoy this as well. Just a bonus. Look at it. What is this photo shoot that they've done for, I think, E Entertainment or something? Look.
So we have ice, lighter, tea, and Anthony Starr has nothing.
He has the beard. He doesn't need anything else.
He has his mugshot.
Look at that beard on his face. Oh, goodness gracious me. They look so hot. Huh. I saw this picture and I was like, I have to just include this in the live stream, if nothing else, for Gayle's benefit.
I really appreciate your picture selection, like from Taika to like this, just killing it.
Thank you.
This is really, really dumb, but this actually reminds me of a moment which I know it's really silly, but I think it really said so much storytelling wise. This season is the first time we see Homelander topless, and the fact that he's not
naked, fully naked. What's
Yeah.
the topless?
sorry, fully naked, and it was so interesting to me that he isn't built up. He's not that typical superhero Henry Cavill bulked up Superman. He was this really stick thin skinny guy, and that was so it told me so much about the character, because he because when you're that powerful, you don't need to be. And the fact that he is this test tube baby who's had this horrible life and he has the abilities, it really informed the character for me in such an interesting way that he's not Soldier Boy. He doesn't need to be this bulked up, Chris Hemsworth thing, because I just thought that was such an interesting moment.
And the fact that he's bulked up, in the way that he is, even Homelander is something that he's just expected to be. He's expected to look like that. So he has that body because that's Superman's body is supposed to be like that. Captain America's body, the two heroes that he's an amalgamation of, is supposed to be like that. It doesn't mean anything to him. Let's take some comments now that we've done talking about the boys. Shashwat says, compared to other character developments, Soldier Boy seemed a little bit lacking. Would you guys agree?
I thought it was really interesting. I just thought that performance was so interesting because he's introduced as a potential savior. By the end, he's Homelander but worse.
पर उनकी लड़ाई हुई नहीं ना, जिस काम के लिए उसको लेकर आए थे वो काम तो किया ही नहीं उसने.
True.
Because he's so sort of entrenched in his ideas of masculinity that even his own son, if his son doesn't fit his ideas of masculinity, he's ready to kill him. He's ready to kill Ryan. All that talk about my blood, my legacy, all of that just goes out of the window because you're so ingrained into that sort of decades-old mentality.
It's such a great twist, no? That Homelander is Soldier Boy's son.
Yeah.
And
what a great twist.
Yeah.
And on a screenwriting... Sorry, go for it.
No. What were you saying?
Now, I was just saying on a screenwriting level, just that must have been so challenging for them to be like, okay, we're introducing Soldier Boy, we're introducing who he is. Now we have to, he's a smoking gun. He could be the solution. Then you have to spend a lot of time with him. Then right till the end, we're wondering, will he attack Homelander or not? And then by the end, we know that he is worse than him. But Homelander always is all about projecting. I'm the best person possible, and behind closed doors, I'm the worst person possible. Soldier Boy just is. He knows. He doesn't have to. He's not all about that. So it must have been so interesting for them to really make you think exactly what they wanted you to think about Soldier Boy when they needed you to think it, and slowly unfold that.
I'm just going to interrupt you here to point out that the number of likes on this live stream is 69 right now. Nice. Speaking about hero-gasm and shit. Guys,
appropriate number.
I know. Anyone who's watching, please hit the like button. वो thumbs up वाला जो button है screen के नीचे. Because if you do that, then other people, it'll show up on the homepage and people will know that this live stream is going on. And those who've missed the last 56 minutes of this live stream will also be able to catch up. Gayle, do you mind Stranger Things 4 spoilers, or you don't care about Stranger Things that much?
I'm fine with it. I haven't seen it. But before we go to Stranger Things, I just want to talk about, I think it was a really great parallel where Homelander is talking to Maeve and she says, I never loved you, I pitied you. And then a few episodes earlier, you see Soldier Boy talking to the Crimson Countess and she says, I never loved you, I despised you. They set up that parallel so well, even before you know that they're father and son. It's just this recurring theme of growing up and turning out to be exactly like your parent, the parent that you despise or the parent that was never there for you, and how some cycles of violence and abuse and neglect can never be escaped from. To me, that was just great writing.
And the boys, none of them have romantic relationships where both of them are superheroes. It's the twosomes are always Huey and Starlight. MM is not interested in anybody romantically right now. Butcher is now enhanced, but the woman he was in love with, who's now dead, was not, even though she did work at Vought. And Kimiko and Frenchie. So the women are enhanced and the men are not. Isn't that interesting? Because they are breaking the cycle of oppressing women because they are superheroes.
It's an interesting way to look at it.
Also, can we just agree that in the next season, the three people who need to be killed, shot in the face, is Homelander, the head exploding lady whose name I forgot,
Newman,
and Ryan needs to die.
वो तो president बनेगी.
Ryan needs to die. Let's just before, I don't want to find out if he turns out. Let's just kill him now. Ryan needs to die.
But Newman, do you think Newman is going to actually become what vice president she's running for?
Yeah.
Wow.
I think so. And also, we didn't see what happened to Stan Edgar, right? So I feel like he's going to make some sort of comeback.
Until they revealed Soldier Boy, I thought Stan Edgar will turn out to be Soldier Boy, or something will happen there. Because why is Homelander so scared of him? I didn't understand.
Because he's the only one who's not scared of Homelander.
Why? Why is he not scared of Homelander?
Because he sees him as a tantrum child. He just knows that beyond all of it. Like he's just not, and I think that's amazing.
Yeah, like he
Gayle,
says, you're just bad product. Like that's
Yeah.
all he sees him as.
there are 2 questions on the screen, Gayle. Will you please read them out and answer them?
So does the Boys season 3 work? And is the penis hole in episode 1 going to throw people off? Can I just say I didn't know that it was a penis hole?
I thought it was an asshole.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But it's not, apparently. I've been corrected under my review on YouTube in the comment section. People are like, nah, it's the other way. You're looking at the
See,
wrong
this show
direction.
has so many layers. We're still interpreting it. You know, it's
Exactly.
just.
But do you think the extreme nudity and the increasing levels of gore, like I said in my review also, it's like the writers are just pushing it and pushing it and pushing it and pushing it to see how far Amazon Prime will let them take this. But do you think it makes it more and more unapproachable, this show?
I think if you've been watching it from the beginning, you know what you're signing up for. But also, since I watched screeners, I got to see all of it. I was reading about people who watch it on Amazon and then everything was censored.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure how it works for those people. Like, I'm sure they were put off by the fact that things that they wanted to see were all censored, right?
People
So
are
in that
saying that
case-
some things were censored.
Yeah, Herogasm, a lot of Herogasm was apparently the frames were chopped in a certain way that you couldn't
Yeah.
see anything.
So yeah, I watch on Amazon. It doesn't censor anything. Nothing is blurred out, but it's very clear the cutting around stuff. You see a slideshow of visuals. They don't show you the full scene and stuff. It's like
Wow, thanks Amazon Prime Video PR for sending the screener, so I didn't have to watch any censored stuff. Everything I watched was in full penis glory. Suchin, thoughts? Do you think this show is too unapproachable because of the violence and the excessive nudity?
unapproachable. I mean, I can see somebody from the outside. Like I can see one of my friends, if me telling them, "Oh my god, the cultural commentary," and they see the trailer and they're like, "What are you smoking?" So I get that. I honestly, I don't think there's any extent. I mean, just being insanely outrageous and ridiculous, gore-wise, violence-wise, is so within the DNA of the show that I want them to keep pushing the boundary. There's nothing to line just go crazy because it feels organic and it's never silly for the sake of it. They have so much fun, but it's always rooted in something. I trust them so much at this point to, if they're blowing up a whale or doing whatever the hell they're doing, everything fits in so well that at no point am I thinking it's too much, because that's what the show is. It's so much other stuff as well, but it really is the show of sort of exploding human beings, people literally going inside each other. That's exactly what you're signing up for.
It's
All
also
right.
really inventive. Like I never thought I'd
Yeah.
get to see that kind of thing in which a guy shrinks down and goes inside another guy and then explodes. Also, like him termite being in that bag of cocaine and being shook. The
Genius.
fact that they did that practically and there are behind the scenes videos of just a man in a giant bag of cocaine is amazing.
It's so funny, na? Because if in real life anybody had the powers of Ant-Man, they would definitely climb up someone's penis. Everyone was like, why didn't Ant-Man do this to Thanos? Why didn't he just climb up Thanos' butt and explode him from the inside out?
That's a really good point, because this show really, like, for nerds like me who love superheroes and love superhero movies, it makes you rethink so much. Like that entire scene, like it makes you rethink Captain America, it makes you rethink that
everything, because then you feel like, yeah, we've so been infantilized by superhero movies. If anybody had superpowers, it's exactly, they would be having an orgy. This is what they would be doing.
I was telling Gayle about that whole scene about when Soldier Boy and those guys the payback is when they're sent to the front lines and everything happens. Obviously, that we later find that that's done for a different reason, but that's what would happen. They'd either be self-centered TikTok celebrities you're putting on the front lines, they're helping no one. It's all, and bad things will happen because of them. They're not saving any lives.
Yeah, the initial comic book was a part of DC, right? And then it had to be separated. I think I was reading somewhere about it, and don't quote me on this, but I think it was a part of DC Comics, and then it had to be separated because it was just making too much fun of superheroes, and the people were like, भाई तुम हमारे पेट पे ही लात मार रहे हो मतलब क्या कर रहे हो, and then it went independent. I'll look it up, everybody. Again, if you're watching, please hit the like button so everybody else will be able to watch this live stream as well right now. So Gayle, you don't mind Stranger Things spoilers, no?
No, please go for it.
Yay! Suchin, are you ready to discuss Stranger Things season 4 volume 2?
First of all, are you tired of saying that Stranger Things season 4 volume 2?
No, I kind of enjoy it. So do you think it's still just a young adult show?
Younger. I mean, I think it's to me, it was always just a big, fun adventure. It's one of the most insanely fun shows out there, where it really is trying to just be great entertainment, very well crafted entertainment. No massive ambitions. And I think it's one of the most consistent shows out there, where it is repetitive. They do the same thing season after season, even though this season they went for it a bit more. But no, I just think it's one of the most fun shows on TV, where it's just that spirit of ET sort of adventure, kids on a journey with a lot of horror-y, scary stuff and great world building. So yeah, I'm still all in on Stranger Things.
World building has been actually quite next level this season because they have taken the world into 3 to 4 different directions. So let's talk about the world building of this season of Stranger Things. Let's Sadie Sink supremacy, right? You have to agree.
Yes. This is in many ways her season. She was the MVP.
And I was shocked. I was really shocked because she Max the character comes in in the previous seasons as a new person in the story, and sure, she's going to be the other girl in the group. She's going to become she'll be like against Elle, then they became friends, and then that when a child is like 13, 14, and when if you're a girl, and those female friendships at that age are very special, are very like deep. When you're a teenager, exploring that, I thought that show did a really great job. But in season 4, they really elevated Max to the main character, and I was like, she has more screen time than any of the original 4 and Elle in this season, and I was very happy to see that because Sadie Sink is a phenomenal performer.
I also love that the show does a great job of, okay, these are my core 5 people, and every season, without us realizing it, they kill one person, bring in 3 new characters, and you're like, who's this person? I don't like them. And then by the end of the season, you're like, no, you're all in. So if you look at who the main characters are now compared to season 1, they do a great job of sort of cycling them and adding and changing and chopping, and it feels very organic. And yeah.
Let's talk about the new characters this season, starting with Eddie Munson.
Doja Cat, yeah.
Doja Cat. Joseph Quinn plays Eddie Munson. Let's talk about him. Suchin.
So I actually read a lot of people describe him this way, and it was exactly my experience. At the start, I was not a fan of him. He was this nerd. He was like an outsider's perspective of a nerd. He was kind of a bit of a bully as well. And you're like, okay, what do I do with him? And then as the season goes on, you feel for him, and then by the end, exactly like I said, MVP. Like, he has the big hero moment, the very sad death, and you're like, I'm all in on him. So, and it's, he represents so much, and his whole sort of that brotherly arc with Dustin, and you're like, I love it. So I think that was almost intentional to an extent, where they threw him in, and you're like, what do I do with this crazy unhinged geek? And then by the end, you are wanting to buy a T-shirt with his face on it.
To me, Eddie Munson started off like DJ from Rang De Basanti. He's taking in the new ones, but he's there beyond his years.
Yeah.
He's not supposed to be in that campus anymore, but he sticks to that campus. It's basically the same conflict. He's on that campus because that's the only community he has. He has a family outside the campus, but like even though his uncle really loves him, he doesn't seem to understand who he is. So he continues to keep failing, and he stays back in the campus and continues to make friends with younger and younger people because usko wahi samajh mein aata hai aur wahi uske dost hain. And it is the same. The stereotype is that of that character, the DJ from Rang De Basanti character, who then eventually goes on and dies.
And I love his arc. I love the idea of, he's just this guy, and then, he's in this horrid situation, and he feels like he let, a murder happens in front of him, and he feels horrible, like he's a coward, even though he's not. What are you supposed to do? And then by the end, he that defines him so much, that I failed, I ran away, who am I? And by the end,
Rang De Basanti, हम कुछ करना पड़ेगा अब. हमने अभी तक कुछ नहीं किया, हमारा दोस्त मर गया, अब कुछ करना पड़ेगा. And then he's very tragic death, but what a great performance by Joseph Quinn, another British guy doing an American accent, and then when you watch Wired autocomplete interview, you're like, oh ye to British hai. Doja Cat is thirsting after him, as am I. I'm very happy with these new shows and movies recently because I'm getting to thirst after so many new men. Very happy about it. Eddie Munson, main character of the show. Now let's go back to another new addition. Let's talk about our man Argyle.
Love it.
Argyle is played by Eduardo Franco. Suchin.
Yeah, so much fun. Like, he really, again, he's technically just a comedic relief character. You don't take him seriously. He adds so much to that silliness of the group, that really fun aspect of the show. And then by the end, obviously, he actually has value. Also, for a show about monsters and, weird powers, and having to explain that to a new person and not freak them out. Someone who's stoned out of their mind the whole time, perfect person. They'll believe it. They'll just be like, yeah, sure, I'm on board.
I loved Argyle. He's so funny, and the show is not looking down upon him, even though he's always high, because he's the one who is driving them from point A to point B. He's the one who steals the van from his pizza company. He's the one who goes into the kitchen and says, "कि इस kitchen में नमक मिल जाएगा, L को लिटा दो, करा दो सारा काम," and then L goes into the whatever parallel world.
Matrix.
Matrix. And so funny. There is one moment when everybody's reunited right at the last episode, and they're setting up the cabin for Elle to start living in again. And Nancy and Jonathan are doing keel laga rahe hain khidki mein, and they see in the background, Argyle is doing some kind of like weird dance in the forest, and Nancy's like, "Is he okay?" And Jonathan's like, "Yeah, he's just collecting mushrooms." It is so funny. It is so funny, harvesting mushroom or something. What a great character to add in just for like funsies and fun sakes. Totally loved this. Let's go back to another new character, Dimitri. Dimitri I have his name as well.
Game of Thrones guy.
Yes, Tom Vlashiha as Dimitri Enzo. देखो सोवियत रशिया का subplot was not my favorite subplot. I thought it went on and on forever without a conflict. Why when they broke out of the prison, went back into the prison to kill the Demogorgons, I didn't understand that. Did you understand that?
So it was basically, let's give these guys something to do in Russia. But I mean, the concept of it was they find out that, okay, Elle and the gang is about to fight another round of monsters. And because it's hive mind, which is such a convenient thing to say, if we fight this one monster we have in Russia, it'll help them there. The logic is that, yeah, if we have 2-3 here, so let me kill these and that will help them, which it weirdly kind of does in some way. But yeah, the whole subplot didn't make sense. If you look at it, he escapes out of prison, gets captured, gets taken back to prison. Then they actually escape out of prison, then decide to break back into prison because it's a hotel you can check in and out of. But all of that is forgotten at the end, because when you have the big David Harbour, who's now shredded, fight with the Demogorgon, you're like, you know what?
With the sword, my man, with the sword.
That moment is just like, I don't care how dumb, the subplot was. This is a glorious moment.
You have to see that moment, Gayle. Like, David Harbour is shredded. He's ripped now, okay? And I understand.
I like the emphasis on like shredded and ripped from like both.
Because the whole thing about him was that he was the town cop who was just out of shape. He was depressed. He was a drunk. Because his daughter had died when she was young. So he has taken in 11, who's this enhanced individual. And he's taken her in, and he's kind of, beginning to feel like a human again. Because he's feeling like a father again. But his whole characteristic was this alcoholic, overweight police wala who's not like very interested in anything. But in this season, suddenly, because he's doing movies outside of Stranger Things, he's lost so much weight, and I completely bought it because I'm like, he's in a Soviet Russian prison, so they're
great weight loss regime. You go to 8 months Russian prison, job done.
खाना नहीं दे रहे हैं, उसको
Except that
पत्थर
didn't
तोड़ा
happen
रहे
for
हैं.
him in Black Widow, right? The opposite happened for him in Black Widow when he was in a Soviet Russian prison.
Exactly. He's like, I can't fit. Black Widow is such a terrible film. He says, I can't fit into the suit, and then the next moment he's fit into the suit.
We need to talk about this separately later because I love Black Widow.
The film?
Yes, the film.
Gayle Sequeira.
Sucharita's losing a lot of friends. She's like, oh, deal breaker.
We're not gonna get invited back to this show.
You liked that Scarlett Johansson film?
I did.
Wow. Why?
I'll tell you why. It's because you know she's dead, and this takes place before that, so there's no like actual stakes in the movie, but that just frees it up to become a so much more emotional film instead, because you know what's coming. In hindsight, everything just becomes more emotional. To me, it really worked.
We're going to have a discussion about this. Yeah. Going back to other new additions on the show, the one and only
the OG
Peter / Vecna, played by Jamie Campbell Bower. Suchin.
No, I mean, I thought he was great. Like, there's such a pressure, in sort of every season to, new big villain. And obviously he starts off as a great villain, and like you finally have a face to put to all of this stuff. And I loved at the end where you find out that, what Dustin says, he's supposed to be the 5-star general of the Mind Flayer, and you find out by the end, no, he is the main man. He's the one been pulling the strings from the start. Even small things like the reason that the monsters always look like spiders is because he was obsessed with spiders as a kid. And yeah, it's so great to sort of, I thought he was such an effective villain until the last episode, because normally just being in the same room as him, you are freaked out. But obviously in volume 2, he's just monologuing for like 13 minutes, and you're like, bro, just do something, kill me or don't, just stop talking. So that took it away. But I thought he was fantastic, and I think he's a great sort of testament to what I really liked about Stranger Things. I really feel like they have this all planned out. You know, with most sci-fi shows, you're throwing everything at the wall and seeing what
They're building
sticks.
as you go, yeah.
It really feels like, you know, they had this all planned out, what the upside down is, how he fits in. And that's what I love. You know, the fact that please don't just be taking this in circles for no reason.
Yeah. What I did miss though this time, which was one of the things that didn't work for me in season 3, was that in season 3 we were introduced to Kali, one of Elle's sister.
And we don't know she's
She's the only other surviving one, no? Because we're shown in the flashback that one killed everyone, but somehow that one Indian enhanced girl managed to get away. We don't see her in any of the scenes in this season at all, I don't think. And she was there in the previous season.
Yeah.
Where is she? Do you think she's going to come back?
Either they have a wider, bigger plan with her, or they're like, I forgot we made another one. So we have to.
But do you think they're going to bring her back? I think they're going to bring her back, because what you're saying, the show does feel like it is very planned. Every character connects to everyone. They have a big board, and everything is connected to everything. Like, even though this season takes a long time, both volumes 1 and 2, to come to a point where everyone is fighting the same battle, because everyone's just, you know, off doing their own thing. Season 5 now will begin. Now that everyone has come together, season 5 will begin at that point. But I really think that they should bring her back, because otherwise it'll be really weird.
Yeah, I have hope. So far, the Duffer Brothers have not let us down. They seem to know what they're doing, and you know we're in good hands so far. So fingers crossed.
Gayle to bore to nahi ho rahi na?
No, the same thing happens in The Boys, right? In the previous season, isn't there someone in that clinic, that lamplighter is in, that bald girl who sort of is exploding people with her mind, who escapes and hitchhikes, and then we never see her again this season?
I do not remember that.
Also, another parallel between both. I mean, Stranger Things, they've declared that season 5 is the last one. But, you know, Gayle was saying that season 4 of The Boys has to be the last one because of the Billy Butcher cancer situation. So do you guys think
I they're doing like 2 more seasons.
So, they need 2 more?
Their plan is to do like till season 5. That's Kripke's plan.
Fair enough.
But I think this puts them on a tighter timeline. I mean, I've been seeing complaints the show is repetitive. Like, Butcher's always going to chase after Homelander. Homelander's always going to come back to like fighting with Butcher. But I mean, if they don't, the show ends. But what I like about this season is that they put some sort of a timeline on wrapping this up.
Yeah, but I think that as opposed to Stranger Things, The Boys still has a lot more to offer in terms of exploring where the story can go. Stranger Things has now come to a point where the story can only go in one direction, which is towards the end.
But in both shows, they have Stranger Things more than The Boys, but they've ended it in a place where the landscape is fundamentally changed. Like, if you just look at what Vought is today, half the 7 is dead. They, you know, Homelander's on record blowing people up or being a racist. You know, that I don't know what the deal is with the stock price, but their whole mission going into season 1 of we have to dismantle the 7, it's sort of successful. Now it'll exist in a different way. So it's not, there has been
but Boys has left off at a good cliffhanger, wherein he's now starting to tutor his young son to become like him. Stranger Things ka cliffhanger has ended at a point where the climax has now begun.
Yeah.
The world has now begun to destroy. The upside down will soon become the right side up, because there are cracks in the actual earth and everything is now coming out. So Stranger Things ka climax shuru ho gaya. Boys ka I think abhi climax shuru hua nahi hai.
Yeah, true.
So I think कि Boys अभी 2 seasons के लिए जा सकता है. Stranger Things तो नहीं जा सकता 2 season के लिए, sorry. Alright, now coming back to the setting. Suchin, which one was your favorite subplot? We've got Hawkins, Russia, California, and Papa's Lab. There's 4 subplots. Papa's Lab and Hawkins merge into each other. No, Papa's Lab and California merge into each other. And then in the end, everybody reaches Hawkins. But what was your favorite subplot?
For me, Hawkins, for sure. Everything happening in Hawkins, you really feel like that's where the action is. You know, everything with Eddie and Dustin. And, you know, that's where... also, I was wondering, because this is the first season where at the end everyone doesn't actually come together. By the end, Russia is separate, California is separate, and Hawkins is separate. And I was reading an interview with the Duffer Brothers, and they said that they purposely wanted to leave it like that because they didn't want Elle to just swoop in and save the day, even though she kind of does. And so I was like, fair enough. But no, for me, if Elle you obviously need, but even if you remove Russia, you still have a great show. You know, Russia was fine, but Hawkins is where it's at. It's where most of the action was, and everyone was together, and that's where you really felt the show.
Yeah, that's why Sadie Sink also really got to grow. That's why Eddie Munson really got to grow because they were holding down the fort in Hawkins. कि मतलब क्या कर कहाँ पे ये लोग पता नहीं. Also the whole merging of California and Papa's lab, Dr. Brenner's lab. I like how I keep calling him Papa, but Dr. Brenner's lab and California merging point was so weird because they just are driving a pizza van to go to find Nina जिसके coordinates उस गर्लफ्रेंड ने दिए हैं, डस्टी की गर्लफ्रेंड ने दिए हैं कि ये यहाँ पे मिलेगा. Somehow she knows, and they reach at the exact same moment where Dr. Brenner is lying on the ground having just been shot by the military, and Elle is standing there fighting off that helicopter in a great shot, like a great low angle shot. She's standing there and the helicopter is in the sky and she does this and the helicopter catches on fire and she does that. But how is it that the pizza van reaches that place at that exact moment when Dr. Brenner is lying there dying?
So
That
you're
was so
technically
bad.
right, and I was like, I'm thinking all of these things, but as soon as you see Elle take down a helicopter in one of the coolest moments in the
You
entire show,
forget everything else.
you're like, whatever, you take my money, you do whatever you want, I'm on board. So
बट इस शो में ऐसे बहुत सारी लेजी राइटिंग मोमेंट्स थी which is makes me feel like कि डफर ब्रदर्स को पता है कि उन्हें पहुंचना क्या है, पर वो बीच में कनेक्ट द डॉट्स करने के लिए ना कुछ भी कर रहा है.
you can see the chess pieces moving. Okay, I need this person to be here.
Yeah,
That's what I'm saying.
how do we do that?
It really is just
Like while you have such a great story going where half of the children have gone in the upside down and half in the real right side up, but they are going to the same location in both the places. They're going to that old house, to the
Yeah.
attic to kill Vecna. That is so great. Such a great kind of like, okay, plan A, step 1, step 2, step 3, go. But how is it that when in the real world they go to buy those weapons and guns, that the football team or basketball team happens to be there at that exact same moment that this whole group of kids has come to buy guns? They have also come at the very moment to buy guns. I'm
there's
like,
also that this meme on the
please.
internet that just makes fun of Nancy, because Nancy's solution every season is buy a gun.
Guns.
I have a gun. Do you have a
Buy a
gun? Let's
gun.
have a gun. You want a gun? Let's get a gun. Let's get a gun.
Which made me a little uncomfortable because I'm like, itna gun mat karo, Vecna, matlab, it feels a little pro gun. It felt, it made me uncomfortable.
That's another thing I don't understand, and even to the boys sometimes the same thing happens when you don't understand the physics of the thing. Like Demogorgon, prime example. Like I'm trying to what is the thing that kills you? Like a sword can chop your head off. Bullets do work or don't work, because like
Bullets don't work.
they
Fire
don't work.
works.
Fire works, bullets don't work. Okay,
They're very flammable, Demogorgons.
but technically the Demogorgon that's open on the table, he shoots it. But I guess because its guts are already open, like he technically shoots it dead. That's being operated on.
I don't know.
It's
I have no idea.
yeah, just like explain, like just decide and I'll follow it. Just tell me how to kill these things.
Yeah, so it was a little frustrating watch. Frankly, I'm not gonna lie. It's really good because we've got some fantastic acting performances and world building going on. But some of Stranger Things was very frustrating, which comes to plot. Actually, we already discussed this, that it takes too long to converge. Because I was really hoping that in Volume 2, first episode, they will all be together in Hawkins and start to fight. But no, that moment comes at the end of 4.5 hours. Again, they've made me wait 4.5 hours to see that reunion between Elle and Joyce and
Yeah,
Holly.
I mean that I think was universally one of the biggest criticisms of the season. You have six episodes, 1 hour episodes, very long, but fine, it works, and then a 4-hour finale. And you're like, look, you could have done this in 90 minutes or an hour.
They're just lucky they have like really good actors.
Yeah. It reminded me of like the Snyder Cut. When like it's unnecessarily stretched. You didn't need this time. Yeah.
What was your favorite musical moment? Running Up the Hill from Volume 1 or Master of Puppets from Volume 2?
So I would say Running Up the Hill, I liked. It was cool, but Master of Puppets for me was just it was insane. It was just like this insane guitar riff at a time where you're getting attacked by demon bats. But still, to me, the greatest Stranger Things musical moment still remains Never Ending Story from season 3. That was such a, when Dusty Bun, when they're singing on the phone.
Let's hear it, Suchin. Let's hear it.
No, my singing voice is, I have to do my vocal exercises, the warm up. No, but that is, I mean, I don't know the words.
Worse.
It was such a wonderful moment. Also, like you're being chased by a monster, and then you have to like sing on the phone, and just that song is such a adventure-y song for kids, and it just perfectly encapsulates us.
Never ending story. Joyce's expression in that moment are too funny. Hopper is like they are singing, and Joyce like puts her head on a wall saying, don't ask me what's happening."
What was your top music one?
In this season, Running Up the Hill, because it was a very emotional moment for me. Master of Puppets is metal as shit, and it is foreshadowing. He's getting this big moment, he's going to die. But
You get a
Running Up
guitar
the
solo,
Hill,
you're dying. Yeah.
you die. And also Upside Down, where he had electricity somehow, which I was like, where is this coming from? But sure, if your amp is working and you're standing on top of a trailer and playing fucking Master of Puppets, I'll take it. But Running Up the Hill was so emotional because Sadie Sink finally came into her own as Max, and she's like, she's a teenager and she's already going through so much shit. She's lost her brother in that moment. She thinks that she's losing herself as well. And then they figure out the song, and it was just shot really nicely. She sees her friends and she sees them for who they are, and then oof, it was very, very moving. And excellent performance, and I was almost in tears because it took me back also to that time where you are 14, 15, 16, and you make these friendships and you're like, this friendship is going to last me forever, and then it doesn't. But I Running Up the Hill for me worked better. Not that Master of Puppets didn't. Someone called Gamebread is asking us if we watched Mayor of Eastwood. I'm assuming this person means Mayor of Easttown, and
Yeah.
that show was like 2 years ago, or at least a year ago. So relax. Favorite character, Suchin?
Dustin.
Okay, why?
Yeah, Dustin. No. I think prime example. You know how there's a big conversation at the end about how Mike is the heart of the group, and he's not. He has
He's
nothing to
really
do with the season. You're not. You're lucky you're still there. Season 1, 2, he was the heart of the thing, but he really isn't anymore. And Dustin, if you look at it, I mean, I think all the other characters are wonderful. Dustin, either Dustin or Steve, but Dustin is wonderful because he really is. He's such a lovable guy, but he's also the brains. He's the one who always comes up with the plans. I read this thing that was justifying why Dustin is the heart of the show. Even in season 2, he finds a Demogorgon. I can't remember what he names him. Like he raises that.
Yeah.
Moments like that. Even his his bromance, that brotherhood with Steve, and this time as well. And it's just he really just feels like, he's the one willing to make the sacrifice. He gets some of the most heartbreaking moments the last few moments of the season as well, where he talks to the uncle. So to me, it's Dustin all the way. Dusty one.
Mohammad Masoom Rana Diwan says Nancy is going to move to Texas because I'm assuming she loves guns so much. For me, it was Eddie and Max. I mean, the two obvious ones I'm going to pick. Eddie and Max. Do you think Max is dead?
No, she's not dead, but she's
Elle
obviously.
doesn't see her in the darkness.
I think if they wanted to kill her, they'd kill her. She's in a coma and she's out of commission, but because they need her for something. So either she's going to recover or she's going to play a part. You know who I think is not dead, or it might just be me. What's the name of the asshole who gets ripped in two? The real bad guy this season, the guy everyone says is worse than Vecna, who's trying to kill Eddie, the jock.
Oh yeah. I forget his name, but yeah.
Yeah. So you know how basically when he was ripped in half because of the ground open beneath him, it reminded me of exactly of how one was sucked into the upside down.
Yeah.
And he sort of
No,
became.
I think he evaporated like Avengers. I think he turned to dust.
Okay, I thought he would be really cool. Like he becomes part of it because I just thought.
No, I think he's one of those people who turned to dust because in the news broadcast later they say that so many people are missing and are assumed dead. So I think he's just turned to dust.
I just thought maybe he got sucked in, but no, I don't think Max is dead. I think she's definitely has a bigger role to play. I don't know in what way.
I think Max will come back.
And I think the most interesting for the last season is Will Byers, because I think the show is going to end where it starts, which is with Will. They've never explained his connection to the Upside Down. I think
with Will like getting taken, and then they're going to have to go look for him again.
Yeah, or there's something like what's happened with Will has never happened with anyone else, but he has a strange connection. We don't know why. So it's going to be all about Will in the last season.
Of all the actors on the show, unfortunately, Noah Schnapp has had the most IRL growth burst spurt. So he's looking nothing like what he was looking in season 1, and he's looking like a proper adult now, and that wig is horrible.
Yeah,
it's a terrible wig they've given him.
Season 5 is just gonna be the kids with beards. Everyone's just gonna like have
I hope they use some de-aging technology on him to make him look like this sweet little Will Byers that he was. And then I think they're gonna. You're right. I agree with you. I think they're gonna go back to the initial conflict of Will Byers being taken away, and then Joyce having to do some detective work, because in this season Joyce had very little to do. She's not doing a whole lot. She's she's just kind of manic doing one thing and then she forgets about her children for a long period of time and then she's like, oh shit, mere bacche bhi hain, and then they find out that bacche to wahan par hain. So her character to me was very, very underwritten, and even when she rescues Hopper, then Hopper is doing all the hero giri after that. She's just following him. There's a very gratuitous scene also where they're taking off their clothes and then they're kissing each other, which I was like, iski zarurat nahi thi yahan pe. Why are we seeing close-up shots of Winona Ryder taking her pants off? Not required. So
I wanna ask Gayle though, like, because these are all such weird shows. Boys, like if you hear people talk about it and you haven't watched them, you're like, what is happening in that show? So does any of this like sell you into wanting to watch Stranger Things, or you're like, what is going on?
So
I will
did
watch
start
Stranger-
watching.
Sorry,
I
sorry,
did start
Gayle.
watching Stranger Things 1 like way back when. It just became a thing of like there are too many shows and like
Yeah.
not enough time, which is why I stopped watching it.
Now if you want
But
to
yeah,
watch
for
also,
sure.
we've spoiled the whole show for you.
Mm.
But if you do watch it, please watch. Stranger Things season 1 is like True Detective season 1. It is some of the finest TV I've ever seen. It's
Oh.
that good. Season 1. 2 went down, 3 was very bad, 4 starts off very weak, but then ends really well. So,
Interesting.
yeah, Stranger Things season 1 was just amazing. So, overall, volume 2 works, na, Suchin?
Yeah, I mean, I think it could have been probably 60% the length, if not less. But yeah, it does everything it's the big satisfying finale. You want has all the big moments, maybe too many big moments, but am I invested? Am I desperate to watch season 5 yesterday? Hell yeah. So does it work overall? Yeah.
Yeah, Utkarsh is saying that they needed Lucas to do something then more than just sit and wait for Max to go into trance. That's why they created the whole basketball team, which I understand. That moment where they complicating the complication further, that Lucas can't protect Max because this guy has kicked the Walkman, so that's why Max's arm breaks.
Still had more to do than Mike, so whatever.
Everybody watching, please like this live stream. We've been talking for an hour and a half now. Thank you so much, Gayle and Suchin, for indulging me and talking about everything this week, which was Stranger Things season 4, Thor, Love and Thunder, and The Boys season 3. Was this fun for y'all?
It was really fun.
So much fun. A lot more fun than Thor, Love and Thunder. For sure.
Parting thoughts, Gayle, Sequeira.
The thought of like MCU movies continuing well into the next decade makes me want to lie down. I don't know. What's the next thing that you guys are excited for? Because for me, Multiverse of Madness was like the last thing. Now I don't know. Maybe Loki season 2, but even then.
What else is coming out? I don't know. What is
I
Marvel
mean, Miss
making?
Marvel चल रहा है, जो मैंने फवाद खान वाला episode भी देखा नहीं है, so don't talk to me about that.
Miss Marvel for me started out really well. Like I loved episode 1 and 2. It was visually very inventive. All of those drawings and doodles that she did, it was super funny. It was just a really empathetic, nice look at like teenage life. But then 3 and 4 just became super bland, too much exposition, visually
I
boring.
haven't watched the new one, so no spoilers, okay?
I haven't seen 5 either.
Just
but
till
yeah.
4, just pre-Fawad, basically. We're talking about till the grand entrance of Fawad. But no,
That's how all shows should be divided. Pre and post.
Pre and post Fawad.
Yeah.
I think I'm really, really dreading it going the same way as Moon Knight, another show that for me started so well, so fresh, and like the conflict of like him having a split personality was just like, holy shit, I can't wait to see where this goes. And then it just takes a nosedive into going nowhere.
That's
That
so
show got
interesting
so
because for me it was the
uninteresting.
opposite. For me it was
What?
the opposite. It started
No.
out so bland and boring, and then I really like loved episode 4 and 5 where they do the whole Legion thing.
Oh
of, like,
man, the
is it
whole
in his
like going
mind?
to
Is it not?
Egypt and like looting the pyramids and everything, and I was like, yeah, nahi interesting hai.
That didn't work for me though. But I love the whole the scene of like Ethan Hawke being his doctor and like is everything in his mind. I feel like they should have started out like that.
Yeah.
Maintain the whole psychological thriller thing throughout.
But overall, Moon
yeah.
Knight really didn't work for me. Like it got over, and then I was waiting for the next episode, and I was like, wait, khatam ho gaya? Because I went and I saw, and I was like, this was the finale. What?
Was Oscar Isaac speaking Spanish not enough for you? How much
Oscar
more does he
Isaac,
have to do?
wa-
That's the
वही-
last scene, right? He speaks Spanish.
देख वही बात है, जिस मोमेंट में एल ऐसे हाथ उठा के हेलीकॉप्टर को गिरा दे तो सारी राइटिंग की गलतियां माफ हो जाती हैं. तो जैसे ही ऑस्कर आइजैक अपनी शर्ट उतारते सारी गलतियां माफ हो जाती है मेरे लिए. तो आई वाज लाइक, ऑस्कर आइजैक is shirtless, this is great, I'm getting 2 Oscar Isaac for the price of 1, also great. So yeah, I'm hoping Miss Marvel won't go down that way. But what is the next big MCU or superhero thing?
She-Hulk, yeah.
Oh God, no! Oh, those posters look terrible.
I love Tatiana and I think she deserves so much better than this.
What has she done? What is she from?
Orphan Black.
Oh shit. Okay.
She's an
Yeah.
incredible actress. Just I hope
Yeah.
that the show does her justice.
I really enjoyed the last Spider-Man movie, but that was mostly for Sam Raimi nostalgia reasons, for to see Tobey Maguire back on screen as Spider-Man. Then Sam Raimi went and made a very bad Doctor Strange film, which you liked,
I
Gail. I
love
didn't like
Doctor
it.
Strange.
I
I didn't
did
like
not
it.
like this new one. You didn't like it, Suchin?
Just losing
No.
all my friends today.
No, I wasn't a fan. Like I honestly, like, I talked to Gail about this stuff, and I just feel like I feel so dumb. I'm like, I didn't get any of that. Like,
Yeah.
you know, I can't even engage with the smaller character arcs when you're put off, by the whole thing overall. It was so much, it was so fine. I really couldn't, I didn't like what they did with Elizabeth Olsen at all, with Wanda.
Me
But
neither.
yeah,
Charlize Theron shows up as a superhero at the end of it, and she shows up as playing a superhero in The Boys, which I thought was just kya ho raha hai? But good for Charlize Theron for taking these roles. Thank you, Gail, and thank you, Suchin, for giving me so much time today and really indulging me in talking about these things. We should do this more often, no?
yeah, it's so much
it
fun.
was
Like,
fun.
especially these shows, you just want to like talk to your friends about it. You know, it's
Yeah.
that kind of zone. So yeah.
Because it's not like we've got anything better to do on a Saturday night, is it?
Let's not tell viewers that. Keep it to ourselves.
Bye!
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Everybody watching, please subscribe, and if you liked what you saw, make sure that you liked the stream so that more people will be able to see it. Share कीजिएगा, कर सकते हैं तो, नहीं तो कोई दिक्कत नहीं.